The whole process of that creation, it took time. So Adam will name the whole animal in one day. He named the whole animal in one day, coordinating them in one day, doing everything that God wanted him to do in one day. It's not so. It took Adam 1,000 years to do all these things, to put all these things in place, to name the animals, to coordinate. Eve came and joined him. They continued the work and all that. Then in my next teaching, I'm going to now tell you about the garden itself. How the devil was able to come in to deceive Eve and deceive the both of them. The space, the vacuum that made the devil come in, I will now explain it to you. But in this very video, I will now tell you that the seventh day that God rested is like 1,000 years to Adam and Eve. Like I said, it could be 1,000 years, it could be 100,000 years, it could be 1,000,000 years. None of us can really point on a particular time and say this is how it was calculated. So when God was resting in that seventh day, Adam and Eve were experiencing another extra 1,000 years. If I said let's use the lesser time, so they were experiencing another 1,000 years, making up the 7,000 years. So they were experiencing another 1,000 years. So when God was resting for one day, it was taking them 1,000 years. Their maker was nowhere to be found. They could not access him. Because God had to rest. He has done what he wants to do. And that rest was for a purpose too. So that's why we should fear God. And in that space, in my next video, that's what I'll be talking about. In that space, that is when they had the temptation they had. Because what the scripture just told us was, in the seventh day, God rested. Then Adam and Eve now went on. They now started, and they now had the temptation, the devil. Because all the scriptures were just summarized. So when God was resting, the devil, in that seventh day, that was when the devil came in, slipped in, and twisted their hearts. That's why I think in the book of Ezekiel, or is it Isaiah? But I think it's Ezekiel. When God was telling the devil, and he was making a comment that, you think I didn't know that you were in that garden? Do you understand? God was saying it to the devil. He said, you think I don't know that you were in that garden? Though some people will say, it's not the devil that God was talking to. He was describing the devil. You were in the garden. You think I did not know that you were in the garden? So all through that God was resting that seventh day, he knew what was going on. He was seeing it all, because, like I told you, this entire universe is for the pleasure. It's for God's pleasure. It's for God's purpose. He was seeing everything. Even when Cain, when he unalived Abel, God was seeing it. He knew. It was all for his purpose. That's why I said there is a process to everything. It's not that God cannot do everything on his own. He's doing it. He's just making us a part of his creation. Less experience. He's just giving us the experience. So when God tells you, go and do something, let me give you an example. If your boss in the office tells you to go and do something, it's not that your boss cannot do it. But he wants you to have an experience of it and to build your experience. It's not that your boss cannot do it. So many of us that think that your boss or your chairman will send you something and you begin to feel so big, like, oh, I'm the only one that can do it. It's a lie. Your boss can do it even better than you. But it's just that he's just giving you that privilege to have an experience of it. If your boss tells you, go and attend a meeting for me, it's not that your boss cannot attend a meeting. In fact, your boss has already gotten the entire memo of that meeting. But he's just telling you, go there and experience it. Not that your boss cannot attend the meeting. He knows everything about the meeting. But he wants you to have an experience. That's how God works. God knows everything that is happening, but he wants us to have an experience, to go through that process. So it is very important for us to begin to understand these facts and to begin to have the epignosis of reality itself, the correct knowledge of life itself. Because once we begin to have the correct knowledge of life, we begin to put things into the right perspective. Not this whole deception that we have everywhere. When we begin to deconstruct what we know and begin to put the correct knowledge into perspective, we begin to have a better life, a more responsible life, a more productive life. It is high time we begin to deconstruct what we know, what we used to know, and let's open our hearts for new knowledge to come in so we can have a better understanding. And when you have better understanding, what it does to you, it makes life simpler for you. It makes you understand that we are all humans. It makes us understand that we must care for each other, we must love each other, and it makes us understand that we must fear our Creator. We must love and fear our Creator because He is everything. Because He is everything to us. So in my next video, I'm going to be talking about what I just said, about that vacuum, that time that God was not around, that time that they think that God was not around, that He was resting, which was like 1,000 years of experience for Adam and Eve. That was the time the devil slipped in and deceived them.